Hello, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Dan, DPD to the PZ, and I'm here with something that I've not done in a little bit. It's a UK Indy Spotlight slash wrestler interview slash I still haven't got the title right, 'cause I have no idea what we call them. But here I am nonetheless, and I am joined, of course, because we always need a guest for these. I am joined by someone who's had many nicknames in the business, but I'll go with what he currently goes by, which is the DDT King, which I really respect, by the way, but we'll get to that. I am joined by, of course, the one and only RJ Singh.
Hello, how you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Very good.
Good to hear. Thank you for agreeing to come on.
Yeah, excellent. No, it's great.
So this is the UK Indie Spotlight that we do normally with wrestlers. Anyone, sorry, in the wrestling business, I should say, not just limited to just wrestlers. But we go through, or try to at least, go chronologically, I'll get it right there, through the careers of said people in the wrestling business. So we just go nice and simple normally for the first thing that we ask people, and that is, to your knowledge, what is your first wrestling memory in regards to what
Uh,
made you, want to be a wrestler, or what was your first exposure to the business, etc. That's that sort of thing.
yeah, I've got really vague memories of World of Sport, like because I was born in the early '80s, so I kind of have a very vague memory of World of Sport. I kind of remember the era at the point of like Big Daddy and Giant Haystack coming in. So I kind of remember that, but not very strongly. But my what I recognise more and what really sticks in my mind is a friend of mine who I grew up with just got hold of a WWF videotape,
Mm.
VHS for the older listeners out there, a VHS tape of some WWF, and I think it was I can't, I can't even remember the matches, but I do know Haku was on it, and I do remember the Ultimate Warrior being on it.
Mhm.
And that was kind of the first time like I'd seen American wrestling. And I remember my friend saying like, "Oh yeah, this is like wrestling like Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks, but it's like American." And yeah, and of course, like production value wise, it was like it's a world of difference, as you can imagine. Like going from
Mhm.
watching World of Sport on TV to watching a tape of like WWF back in the sort of this would have been sort of mid late '80s, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, and it was just incredible, like totally just sucked in by it. As soon as I watched that videotape,
Mhm.
I was from that point on like asking my parents for like wrestling videotapes for my birthday, for Christmas. And I remember the first videotape I owned was Survivor Series 1998. No, 1988, I should say. Sorry. Yeah, not 98, for 88.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that was that. I remember that was being the first one I owned as well. And then a friend of mine as well was collecting videotapes as well. So we'd often trade and swap. And, we had one friend who had Sky TV
Yeah.
in the early 90s because literally only one friend in your school would own Sky at the time. And they would record stuff off there for us as well. So that's how we'd end up watching it. And then somewhere in the early 90s, WCW started airing on ITV, like
Mm.
late night on ITV, and I think there was a succession of programs from like 11 p.m. was a American Vietnam drama called Tour of Duty, which was
Mhm.
on about 11, or about around midnight or something like that.
Yeah.
And then there was a student cooking program called Get Stuffed, which would follow it, like a 5 minute program. And then following that would be WCW Worldwide.
Yeah.
So very occasionally we were able to stay up and watch that, or we would record that on VHS to watch the
Mhm.
next morning.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. No, my mother has a similar sort of memory, like in regards to that. It was like she wasn't a wrestling fan per se when she was younger, but she used to watch Prison Cell Block H,
Mm,
and that used to be on like directly before either a WCW or WWF
yeah,
show. But yeah, that's pretty cool to hear though. Like, and as you say, like the trend of having that one friend who has Sky TV
mm,
that didn't change going forward. It was At least where I'm from, anyway, that didn't change.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. You always had to find that one one or two people had Sky, so that and you'd be like, I remember one friend, I would literally like give him blank videotapes and be like, "Can you record like
Precisely, yes, yes.
this is Royal Rumble's on. Can you record the Royal Rumble for me? Things like
Hmm.
that."
Yeah,
So
absolutely. We did that with my uncle. He has Sky TV and used to just volunteer to record stuff for us and then give it to us after.
yeah, that was it. Like I said, because it just wasn't it just wasn't so freely available to watch. We're talking 30 plus years ago.
Hmm.
You didn't have it so available to watch. Where you look at anything now, not just wrestling. It's bang, it's on your phone within
Hmm.
seconds.
Yeah,
You have to
absolutely.
kind of wait for these things and plan ahead for these things.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, but yeah, going into the actual yourself being in wrestling. Uh, was there anything that sort of stands out to you? Like it was like, you know what, I wanna get in that ring. I wanna knock some heads about.
Yeah, I mean, it was I watched wrestling pretty consistently, like up until about 1996, and then we moved house, and we had Sky. We had Sky at that point. By 1995, we had
you
Sky,
you had like one friend.
and yeah, yeah, and I watched WWF a lot and WCW because WCW was on TNT. Was it TNT or something? It was TNT, but I'm sure you could also find WCW on like a German sport channel as well. If you just could get past the German commentary. But that's how I used to watch WCW as well. But then I kind of stopped watching. So I actually stopped watching like right bang before the Attitude Era kicked in. I kind of stopped watching then. And I didn't actually pick it up again until about like late 98 into 99 is when I started watching wrestling again. So it was kind of a bit of a 2 year gap where I just hadn't seen any wrestling. So I missed a big sort of period of wrestling.
Mm.
Um, and so, but then I started watching it again, started getting, really started getting into it again. No thoughts of actually ever like making it a reality to do it. Until 2000. Yeah, it was the summer of 2000, and I was at in first year of university, doing my teaching degree, and I was walking through town where I live, and there was a poster for a wrestling show, and I'd never been to a live wrestling show ever.
Mm.
Um, so I saw this poster for this wrestling show, and it was a promotion called Capital City Wrestling,
Okay.
which was kind of an offshoot of FWA. Um, and I just thought, I'm just going to go check it out. I'm going to go watch it. So I went to watch it down at it was at my local theatre, and it wasn't very good. Like, the show itself, I mean, it had some amazing names on it. Don't get me wrong. It had like Doug Williams, Jodie Fleisch, Johnny Storm. All those guys were on there, but
Mm.
the show itself wasn't particularly of high quality. They were great, obviously.
Yeah.
But the show wasn't particularly well put together. It was like it wasn't very well promoted, so there wasn't. I wouldn't say. But then I started speaking to one of the wrestlers afterwards, wrestler named Mark Sloan,
Mm.
and just asked him about like how'd you get into it and stuff. And he sort of gave me details and told me he had a school down in Portsmouth.
Yeah.
Um, and I was living at that point. Not long after that, I then moved to sort of London.
Yeah.
I was in North London for university, and I kind of started following FWA online.
Mm.
Because I only just started using the internet back then. I'd still go to the library to get, but I was still getting books from the library at that point.
Yeah.
And so I started following FWA online, and Mark Sloan out of his academy in Portsmouth, the FWA Academy in Portsmouth, would run weekend camps. So the kind of following year of March of 2001, I signed up to do a weekend camp, and that was kind of my first training. So I went there and um, absolutely worked the life out of us. Like I couldn't move my arms by the end of it. I could barely walk. Like they worked us really hard there. I think they really wanted to see who might stick at it.
Yeah.
And out of a 3 day camp, after day one, a handful of people left because they were just like, this is way harder than we thought it'd be.
Mm.
But I was really determined. I was like, no, I'm gonna see this out because
Yeah.
number one, I paid for it. So
Yeah.
I was determined. So got to the end of it, and I got some really nice feedback from Mark as well. He said, he thought I did really well. I didn't have a car at the time though, so I said to him, I'm living in North London. This is going to be a bit of a struggle. do you know any other schools closer to me? And he said, well, actually, we're opening up a school in North London in Finsbury Park. And I was like, oh, brilliant, because I lived in Southgate, so it's like 7 stops or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was like, that was perfect. So I then started going to the London school in sort of April, about a month later. It was quite lucky it opened up. So yeah, I started attending the London school from there, and that was kind of where I took my training. And as I said, by the end of that year, in November of 2001, is when I had my first match.
Fair enough. So who would you have said was like, not a one person in particular, but unless it is one person, but who would you sort of accredit your overall like beginning training to? Because according to Cage Match, which is the trusted database of wrestling, it's Alex Shane and only Alex Shane.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I had that initial 3-day camp with Mark Sloan, and he was assisted by Justin Richards and James Ty. So they kind of gave me the initial weekend, but my training from that point on was with Alex Shane.
Oh, fair
So
enough.
Alex was my main trainer from that point onwards, and sort of became my trainer and mentor at that point. So yeah, so it was like Alex who trained me from that point, and then kind of got me started on being on shows.
Fair enough. So speaking of the shows that you were part of, again, I'm going off Cage Match here because your career is it's got a lot of longevity. But so according to Cage Match, again, as I'm 25, just to put it in perspective. So I was like maybe 3. But
I will point out, I just literally 6 days ago, I just turned 42. So
happy belated.
That's it. I literally just turned 42. So yeah, I have been in this for quite a while now. So yeah.
To be fair, it is the the answer to life and everything. So
that's it. Exactly. Yeah. You know what? I have a 42 T-shirt. I do have a Hitchhiker's T-shirt which says 42, and it's got Life, the Universe, and everything. And I couldn't find it to wear it on the day of my birthday. I was really gutted, and I found it literally the next day. I found it. I was like, too late to wear this now. So
yeah, absolutely. But yeah. So going into the your career aspect, according to Cage Match, again, I'm saying quite a fair bit according to Cage Match, but your first match was FWA. 5th of July, the year 2000. It was yourself, Johnny Storm, and Alex Shane against Guy Thunder, Jody Fleisch, and Justin Richards.
Yeah, so Cage Match needs to change that because that's completely wrong. Now, funnily enough, and I'll tell you why. Because as you would have heard me just say, I didn't debut until the end of 2001.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, the reason that's quite funny is the show you just described. That was the show I went to see.
What?
Right. Yeah. So you may ask, why? You may ask, is there the confusion? Well, that's very simple. On that show was a guy who was I believe he was Scottish. Who was a manager / wrestler, more of a manager than a wrestler, but could get him in. And his name was Ross the Boss Gordon.
Ah, okay.
Right. So when I first debuted as Ross Jordan, and by the time I debuted, he was no longer around or on that scene, or I don't know what happened to him at this point.
Yeah.
But there was quite a bit of initial confusion. When I first started wrestling, because everyone confused the names at that point. So no, that wasn't my first match. There should be, my first match was November the 10th, I think November the 10th, 2001, FWA High School Hell versus Hayde Vanson. So that was my first actual match. Yeah, but it's fun, and that's where the name confusion has come in. So that's why. So yeah, whoever runs Cage Match, there's just a little edit for them, but they can leave that there because it's a nice reminder that was the first show I ever went to.
So I'm assuming that also wasn't you who teamed with Johnny Storm and Alex Shane against Blade, Jody Fleisch, and Kevin O'Neill in 2000.
No, that was also Ross Gordon. So yeah.
But no,
maybe that was his only two. Maybe that was the only 2 matches he actually wrestled. I don't know. I think maybe that was.
Either way, sort your stuff out, Cage Match.
Yeah. I'll have to ask maybe two of my longest friends in wrestling, Paul and Phil, who were Ash and Curve, the New Breed.
Yeah.
Who were on that show as well, and that's the first time I ever met them. Was they were on that same show as well. And I wonder maybe they'll know whatever happened to Ross Gordon. So I'll have to follow up with a conversation with them. They might know.
Fair enough. But no, as you go into now, as you said, as you mentioned already, your actual debut match, not according to Cage Match, but is on there, but according to you as well,
Quickly, yeah.
where you competed against Hayde Vanson for FWA High School Hell.
That's right, Hayde Vanson of the infamous SmackDown promo.
Yes.
Just never went anywhere.
I have watched the darkness my entire life.
Which is one of the bizarrest and most interesting stories, I think, in all of WWF.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was put against Hayde. I don't know if that was Hayde's debut match. I think it was. It was certainly his FWA debut, and I don't know if he had worked an all-star show or something before that, or somewhere else up north. But it was like I said, it was certainly my first match, and it was Hayde's first match, and it was kind of designed as a showcase for him, really, to kind of. I mean, Hayde was brilliant. Like, he's a very, very talented guy, very charismatic, and so yeah, it was kind of designed to kind of show him off a bit and also give me some experience as well. So I don't remember a lot about the match now, but I do remember that it was quite well received, and like, you know, we were told, like, you know, we did a good job. It was technically like a dark match. It was like a pre-show match, so
yeah,
you know, it kind of wasn't part of the main show, but it was like an opener for everybody, and you know, we kind of did what we had to do. I remember it got some, you know, we did the right thing. We didn't get yelled at. I remember that much. So that we must have done something right, because we didn't get yelled at or told off or anything like that. So but yeah, it was a really good experience. And like I said, you know, being on for the first time, you know, being on the actual roster, because, you know, before that point, as Alex's trainees, we spent a lot of time in the crowd of FWA shows, and we were plants in essence, because we were told you know, about what chants they wanted to get going, and what, you know, when to kind of like to make sure that the crowd were engaged.
Yeah,
we were often told, like, right, we want you guys to get chants going, so, you know, the crowd start getting with it and stuff like that. So, you know, we always had really good seats as well. We were always in a little section, which was really good for us, because we got to watch the show firsthand. We, you know, we helped out. We helped set up the show, get the ring up, get everything ready, and then we kind of on the show. So to then go from that to then being in the locker room was quite a big deal for me. And yeah, no, I was like I said, looking back, I was proud of that first match. It wasn't the world's best first debut match ever, but I was proud of it. I'm proud of what we did.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And just to circle back a little bit, just again, according to Cage Match, but it was Hayde Vanson's debut.
Oh, it was, right. There we go.
Yeah.
That was his debut. Excellent.
There you go. If that is accurate, I don't know, but if it's okay, it must be gospel.
Yeah. There you
go. But no, following that, there was I never attended these because I was insanely young, but there was these Afterway Academy shows.
Yeah.
So there's these series of matches that you've had with other trainees as well, or people in that academy class, I should say.
Yeah. So kind of alongside the main FWA shows, which Alex was kind of spearing up and heading up, Mark would run shows for his academy students, you know, mainly for the guys in Portsmouth, but again, Alex would kind of say to me, you know, can I send a couple of the London guys down to you, just to get them more experience? And that's what it was intended. So, you know, every now and again we would drive down to Portsmouth, and we'd take part in Mark's academy shows, which again was a really good experience. We were obviously wrestling people kind of on a similar level to us, and it was about kind of like honing the craft a bit, and just kind of, you know, developing character, developing movesets, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was, you know, it was a really good experience, because again, we got to meet guys who experience, got to kind of trade ideas and things like that. But, you know, personally, I think the best thing in this day and age, I think the best thing you can do when people are starting out is just to put them against way more experienced people. Like I think that's the way. And to be honest, I think that was a slight difference. For a long time, we didn't really get to work more experienced people. We kind of were working people of a similar experience level, which is good. You know, again, it's good, but it's not really how you learn.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I think nowadays that would be like my one recommendation for anybody running a training school is, you know, when you're going to debut them against way more experienced people, put them in there with people who know what they're doing. And you know, and it's one of the things I love now. Like I really enjoy working with people who are, you know, a year in or so, and you know, or just into it. You know, if someone said to me, oh, you know, we've got someone out of our training school debuting and we want you to be their first match, I'd be really honoured. That'd be a really great honour if I was asked to do that.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, honestly. Like I'm not a wrestler, but I could apply that sort of logic to, you know, the admin sector where you sort of like being the one entrusted to train the new staff or something like that. But
yeah.
So yeah, after the academy shows here, that lead again, I'm going off a list of matches. So feel free to cut me off if I'm wrong or something. So you what's the word? You ventured ground and you went to other promotions in the UK. So at the end of 2002, you took part in a 16-man rumble as part of UKWA Schools Out event.
Yeah, that was like our first foray into the Midlands. With me and Styx, who again was Styx, who was one of the London trainees as well, who I became really good friends with, and we've been good friends ever since. And that was kind of our first foray of kind of venturing out a little bit. Again, I can't remember, it was someone who had come to see us down in Portsmouth and had kind of hooked us up with the guys in the Midlands who were just trying to cut their teeth. And you know, for a while, that was kind of a bit of our main body of work, was kind of up in the Midlands around Nottingham and Sheffield and that, you know, all that kind of area there. We tended to get a lot of work with these guys in UKWA, and they were in partnership with another promotion called RBW. And yeah, so, and again, they had some shows down south, there's some in the Midlands, some slightly further up north, and we tended to get a lot of them. Again, you know, there were guys who again were just really passionate, but they were all very, you know, on a very similar experience level. There wasn't anyone really, you know, with loads of experience at that point. But it was, you know, it was really good. You know, it's where I met like Chris Travis for the first time at those kind of shows. And yeah, it was, you know, it was. I look back at that period really fondly because, like, I think in that time as well was the first time I ventured into playing a heel. I'd always just kind of played babyface with FWA and things like that. It was my first time kind of venturing into being a heel, and that was really exciting because I'd never got to do that before. I got to do a lot of tag matches with Styx as well, so that was, you know, which was always a blast. So yeah, it was really, really fun. Again, fun learning experience, and that was kind of back in the day where, like, I loved the journeys and the drives and the things like that. It was really exciting.
Yeah.
Not now. If I've got to go more than half an hour to a show from my house, I'm like moaning about it. But it was kind of, you know, back then you're young, you're kind of like, the travel's exciting, going to new places is exciting, and you know, trying new things out in different places was really exciting time.
Yeah. Well, I suppose nowadays you prefer just more like the short travels, and you prefer
absolutely. I think like anything more than 2 hours, I just roll my eyes at, but I'll do it. But you know, it's just, you know, late. It is like when you're in your 20s and stuff, like you can leave a show at 11 at night and roll in at 2-3 in the morning and you're fine. Like, you do it at my age now, and like, you just you know being a dad, you know, having a full-time job and being a dad as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just wipes you out. So I mean, recently I did a show, I think, where like I got in at like 4 in the morning, and then I had to be up again at 7 because we had swimming. Me and my daughter had swimming, like, you know, the next morning. So that was just horrendous. Like, I literally just wanted to lay down in the swimming pool and fall asleep. So
yeah. So we move forward to perhaps one of the most talked about shows during that era. 17th of May 2003. FWA were often compared to, at the time, as the British Ring of Honor in regards to the matches they have with the hard hitting and just how ruthless everything seemed to be. So that they then combined forces with Ring of Honor for, I believe it was one show only. I'm not wrong on that.
Yeah. Yeah, Funches of Honor.
Precisely, yeah. So yourself and I might get the name wrong here, but Raj Ghosh,
Raj Ghosh, yeah.
Ghosh, sorry, but yeah, you two teamed up, Double Dragon, and you took on according to it was a handicap match against Paul Burchill,
Yeah.
which I don't recall personally, but
yeah. So with that one as well. So again, me and Raj have been tagged up by Alex and Mark had tagged me and Raj up for a little while, down in the academy shows and trialing us out on FWA show. I think we'd had another tag match against the Pitbulls prior to that. And again, I think the previous time in York Hall, I was, security, which again, trainees wear FWA t-shirts.
Yeah.
I was one of the people, the infamous Jody Fleisch balcony moonsault in York Hall. I think I was the one holding the ladder, or certainly part of the team that held the ladder. And so then to be like asked to be on the following York Hall show, which is, and again, York Hall is one of my favourite venues.
Oh yeah.
Which I'm sure we'll cycle back later if we talk about TNA Boot Camp later on. Like York Hall is one of my absolute favourite venues, and that was the first time I got to perform at York Hall. And again, with that match, the whole purpose was about really making like Burchill into a monster, making him like a really monster kind of character.
Yeah.
Prior to that point, he'd just been like decimating trainees from the Portsmouth school. So they were like, right, we're going to get into a handicap match. And we actually went down and we went to the Portsmouth Academy and we worked on that handicap match together, me, Raj and Paul. And I got on really well with Paul because Paul's a teacher as well. Paul's a special needs teacher.
Okay.
So we had a lot in common. And we just worked on that match, and like Mark came in and dipped in and helped us restructure it and things like that. And again, the clip that I think you probably get seen most from that is the sort of the German belly to belly double suplex.
Yeah.
Which again, I was really proud of because it just worked. It worked brilliant. So again, I was really proud of that match. We just basically got battered, but I was really proud because it did exactly what it needed to do.
Plastic, yeah.
That's something I always pride myself in delivering whatever the promoter is asking of me. So yeah, that was, and again, you're on a show with like at the time the biggest names in independent American wrestling. AJ Styles, CM Punk. I think CM Punk was on that one.
Yeah, Samoa Joe.
Yeah. All these guys who were like, at the time the biggest indie names out there was incredible. And then obviously stepping in front of that actual, the audience of York Hall, and when York Hall is packed, it's incredible.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, that was like the first time I felt like I kind of stepped up as a notch then, because going from sort of halls, working in small halls of like up to about 100 people to like was it like 800 or something you get in
near 1,000 York Hall,
yeah, something like near 1,000 to like having that level of that felt like a real step up. And it's like to perform in front of that kind of crowd was just phenomenal experience.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to show you as well something you might have seen. I don't know if you've seen it recently, but this is basically, I attended Funches of Honor when I was like 6 again, as I keep saying, but my mum used to take me to all these shows like FWA and like what the area is now, top of my head. Oh, my name's on top of my head. But York Hall, a few civic halls and all that. But she kept some of these like magazine pages and stuff like that. So I've now got them essentially. But you can see here.
Oh yeah, there you go. Fantastic.
So there's you and
yeah. Oh my goodness.
It's quite insane. And there's also the other one if you're just there next to it as well.
Is that me flying through the air?
Yeah.
About to be caught. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
I think I did a spring. That's a springboard, I think. Oh my goodness. I'm back in the days where I could do a springboard. Blimey.
But I just thought that sounded pretty cool.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then also there's another thing as well that I wanted to show you as well, but I don't know if you're in the picture or not. But this is one of the programs you used to get.
Right.
And then they had like little sections dedicated to certain members of the roster, but they didn't have one for the trainees, so it was just the FWA trainees. Which is just with the picture just there. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant!
I'm not sure if you're in that.
Is my name?
Your name is there somewhere.
Excellent.
But yeah.
That's fantastic. Have you stumbled across like the YouTube channel, like the FWA Files YouTube channel?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
So that's incredible. I can't believe like literally all the shows have gone up on there.
It's so good.
Amazing.
I mean, I won't lie. Like, part of me is like just doing a sort of vanity search to say like, oh, can I see myself in the crowd? But no, like some of the like early FWA shows like are incredibly like they're incredible. Sorry.
Yeah, of course.
Like even like you know like the matches like they were just such a showcase. You know they're done so well because they portray someone in a certain light, and it does such a good job of doing that as well.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, FWA was pretty groundbreaking for this country because it was just kind of it paved the way for the shows we kind of get now.
Mm-hmm.
I think FWA paved the way for them to be like that. I think they kind of took it out of just the normal halls and like said, look, we can film this, we can make a production out of it, we can stage it, we can have custom music,
mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. So it was really groundbreaking stuff at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So up until this point, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had won no titles so far in your career.
Yeah, no, I think the trying to remember, like I think the RBW tag titles or RBW welterweight title was kind of the first one I had.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember when I won those.
that's what I'm getting into now. UKWA Rampage and Runcorn second edition of this show, I guess. The 3rd of August 2003, yourself and Styx had defeated Andy Baker and Domino to win the British Tag Team titles.
That's right. Gosh, yeah. I don't remember a lot about that match. I remember what I wore, which is really weird. I remember I had these blue tights with these gold and white arrows on them, which I gave away, which I wish I'd kept them. They're incredible. Because they were made by a gear maker called Edward Tyra out of Liverpool.
Yeah.
Which did really nice wrestling gear. And obviously like Andy Baker and Domino, God rest his soul. They were really, really good guys. We got on really well with them, and like I remember having good chemistry in that match. And again, I really enjoyed it because I was taking with Styx. So, but that, and for me that was like a kind of a big deal. It was the first championship that I ever held. So it was, it's really exciting stuff. Like, and I know, people will tell you like titles aren't important and things like that, and but it is nice. It is when a promotion puts a championship on you.
Mm-hmm.
I think I always feel it shows a degree of faith in you, and I think to kind of especially those ones where we really love being in those promotions. We love being part of the UKWA / RBW connection. We loved working for them. Like I said, we really enjoyed the shows. We had a great time. So it was a real it was a real honor, to be honest.
Yeah, like not to mention as well, like this is only it's under 2 years since you made your field professional debut.
Yeah,
as well. So as you say, like this, the good show of faith as well in the youngsters to be the ones to hold these tag belts, to be the ones to bring the tag division going forward.
Yeah, definitely. And then not long after that, they started bringing in some like veterans of like World of Sport. So it wasn't long after that point we started. They started bringing in people like Johnny Kidd and Blondie Barrett and Keith Meyer and Alan Kilby. I really remember like them all being involved, and we then got to work with them, which was a whole new ball game because it was like learning from these guys who had been on World of Sport and learning that kind of traditional British style and learning to slow things down and didn't have to go 100 miles an hour. And they were really good with us. Like they were always really accommodating and really happy to help us and pass on knowledge. So that was a really great experience as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was your first tag title win. Do you remember your first singles title?
I think it was the British welterweight belt, which I won off Spud.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It started my long relationship with Spud / Drake Maverick, whatever you want to call him now. Which I hated him when I first met him. I just hated him so much.
But yeah,
He
no.
was
If
just
anyone
I don't know why. I just didn't like him. I didn't like him very much when we first met. And we became really good friends. Like we every now and again still message each other.
Mhm.
But I really, I don't know why I just didn't like him when I first met him. But then I worked him. The first time I met him, I didn't really speak to him very much.
Mhm.
And then I wrestled him, and the first time I stepped in the ring with him, he's so talented.
Oh yeah.
He was always really talented in the ring, and
Mhm.
over the years, he developed such a brilliant mind for wrestling and
Yeah.
like the psychology of wrestling and storytelling and why you do certain things and you don't do certain things and blah 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 blah. To which is no surprise why he now writes for Raw. It's
Yeah.
not a shock in the slightest because that and he obviously needs a job still. But that's that's and I think Raw are very lucky someone like with such a brilliant mind as him because he's just brilliant. So I loved all my matches with Spud. I don't think it was a single match with Spud I didn't love. I loved all of them. They were all we wrestled a couple of times over the years, and it was always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Although for someone his size, he always hit a frog splash like he was about 25 stone, which I don't know how he managed to do that because he must have been about 8 stone at the
Mm.
time, but he somehow made that frog splash. You felt every single bit of that frog splash, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, how was that sort of, I guess, the feeling of winning your first singles title? Because there's no reliance then on a tag partner to help you out or to sort of, like get something going when you can't. Like there's a purely just you and your opponent at the time.
Yeah, I mean, like by that point, I was fully into being a heel up there as well. So,
Mhm.
like, it was. I think I enjoyed it more because I was just fully into being a heel character, and I could be as heelish as I wanted. And again, like I think tag titles are really cool, but I think like to win a singles title is also, like I said, it is really special. And I remember actually because they had these really quite cheap like boxing belts that they'd got because again, belt making was wide. So I think we ended up replacing them with WWF replicas with stickers on them. So in the end, we managed to like just accumulate these WWF replica like or and WCW. So it was like because I remember the welterweight we took a replica WWF light heavyweight title,
Yeah.
made that the welterweight belt. Um, and the same with I think we got a pair of like old WCW tag titles, and we kind of used those as well. So it was kind of cool because they were like as close to real belts as we were getting at that point, because it wasn't easy to come by wrestling belts at that point.
No, of course
People
not.
were
Yeah.
using boxing belts or trophy, or they'd gone to a trophy maker and got them, got a couple of medals stuck to a piece of leather and that, things like that.
Yeah.
Not like you can get today. Which which is funny, completely incidental. Because I got this sitting here, like this is a custom one that I had made a couple of years ago, and I was just cleaning it up. But that's my
Oh, that is
a legacy
beautiful.
belt. It's really sad. It's really sad this kind of thing, but that's kind of a legacy belt. I completely stole the design of the because King of the Ring they had a belt made, but they never used it.
Yeah.
So W had a King of the Ring belt made, but they never used it. I just kind of stole the design and just had my own kind of
Yeah.
idle
Why
thing
not?
about it.
Why not?
I was giving it a clean up today, so that's why it's sitting on my kitchen table.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
There we go. So yeah, that's it. So yeah. But yeah, no, I love doing that. I love working with Spud. I always, it was always great fun. Always great fun working with. Like I said, it was a pleasure to be in the ring with.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Um. What let me on to? So yeah, you as I mentioned before, you went through different companies as well. At this point, you ventured a bit more out as well. You went with RPW, with MEP, which is the main event promotions, which I think might not have been the name. It might have been like
No.
the owner like sort of brand for
Yeah, I
said
think so.
show.
Yeah, I think the company name. I think because
Yeah.
it was RBW was Revolution British Wrestling.
hmm
Was and that was kind of the name the shows were under.
Yeah, and then there was also RPW, Rebel Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, I don't remember that one very well at all.
Fair enough. According to this cage match, again, that's the catchphrase of this interview. According to the cage match, you teamed with Sticks and you fought Corey Davis and Reigns.
I think that was just, again, it was the same people. It was the UKWA RBW guys, but maybe just one of them ran the show under a different name. But it was essentially the same crew. I'm pretty sure it was essentially the same crew. Yeah.
And so yeah, moving on to the end 2004, you wrestled for a company which has one of the best acronyms for a wrestling company, in my opinion. WAR. Which is, yeah, the Wrestling Association of Rugby.
That's right. Yeah, they were based out in Rugby. Yeah.
So you teamed up with Spud.
Yes.
To take on the hierarchy, which was Alex Shane and Styx.
That's right. Yeah. And War, I think is kind of what Spud kind of cut his teeth in War. That's where he originally kind of did a lot of his training. Well, I'm not sure he did his training there. I know he trained a lot at Birmingham and stuff like that, but I think he got a lot of work with War. So it was kind of cool to be coming in there. And again, I'd kind of reverted back, it was obviously, I think around that point I did a lot of work with Alex. Like I wrestled Alex quite a few times, not long after that, and in and around that time. And so he kind of wanted to take a match over to War, and we put that together. I remember just forgetting something in the match, mid-match. I completely Alex was very much like planned everything. Alex, because you get wrestlers who plan everything, you get wrestlers who plan some things, you'll get wrestlers who don't want to plan anything, and all in between. And I think it's healthy to kind of know all the different ways to put a match together and to work a match. But I remember Alex was very rigid in, this is the match from start to finish, and these are all the beats. And he had a great memory, though. He had a really good memory for remembering spots and sequences. And I just remember forgetting something. I remember him telling me about it backstage afterwards. didn't tell me off necessarily, but did remind me that I'd forgotten a spot. So
yeah. I can imagine it's a bit daunting seeing this giant of a man coming towards you. But no. So again, you made you're making like other debuts with one of the, I think they're still around now, LDN Wrestling.
Yeah, LDN Wrestling, yeah. Who so Sanjay Bagga, who runs LDN, he was like a regional promoter for FWA. So when FWA kind of expanded all over the country, they kind of had regional promoters doing shows, who would promote the shows for them, put the shows together, and I remember Sanjay had done quite a few of the London ones, but then decided he wanted just to branch out on his own, and he's still touring successfully today. I think even like as we speak, he's in Clacton doing a show in Clacton tonight. So
that's sweet.
Yeah, and still tours like very, very regularly.
But no, so you debuted for them again, according to Cage Match, on the 8th of April 2005, and that was against Martin Stone.
Yeah, aka Danny Birch. And again, Martin's someone who I've come across a couple of times. We've wrestled quite a few times. I saw him just before the pandemic. I think was the last time I actually saw Martin. Because he'd popped back in between stints in the US, I think, where he'd been released from WWE the first time, and then he was just jumping around before he then got rehired again. So Martin I always really enjoyed being in the ring with. We always kind of, I felt we gelled fairly well together in a couple of the matches we had.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. I'm gonna skip forward a tiny bit. So going back to FWA. This is the moment here where, again, you fought Spud. It was the finals of the Summer Classic tournament thing. And you'd won the flyweight title.
Yeah. That was a really big deal for me. So obviously just before that, but I mean, I think before that at some point we'd had the three-way, we'd done British Uprising 3, which was at the Coventry Skydome. Is it right? Coventry Skydome, that was called? Maybe. Big ice rink arena in Coventry, which was FW's biggest show of the time, which also kind of bankrupted them as well. But that was a really big deal being on that show. We were the opening match, me, Spud, and a guy called Aviv Mayan. We opened the show with the three-way, which we were really thrilled with how that went, because it kind of went absolutely planned, and it was got a good, really good reception. So it was kind of on the back of that, that we started getting, we're being really regular for FWA, and then like Alex wanted to launch a flyweight division, which was essentially their version of a cruiserweight division. And I found out I was going to win it, and I was really, really just over the moon with that, like being the inaugural FlyAway Champion.
Mhm.
And again, though, however, though they'd had a problem with the belt maker and they couldn't get a belt in time, so the the WWF lightweight replica that we were using for the welterweight in RBW, we repurposed that into the FWA flyweight title, so there was a title belt.
Yeah.
For the show, and yeah, so and in Morecambe, Morecambe was one of my favorite places to wrestle. The Morecambe Dome was incredible. Greg Lambert, who was the regional promoter there, and later it became XWA. After FWA closed, the Morecambe Dome was awesome. Now that was a good 4.5 hours drive, but it was worth it because the shows were just wicked. Like the crowd were awesome. The building was it was a great venue. Yeah, it was always really good. And so, again, to be in the finals of that and to be chosen as like the first ever FWA Flyweight Champion was a really big deal for me. It was a really big deal, and I was, like I said, immensely proud. And again, I got to do it with Spud, which was even better. And I definitely forgot a spot at the start of the match. And if you look closely, I think I don't know what the edit looks like actually, but I just remember he was shouting it to me, like literally in the ring. He sent me off and went, "Duck your head" or something like that. And yeah, it was great. It's great fun.
So a club of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, moving forward. Do a little breakaway here, just so it isn't so consistently match after match after match sort of thing. Obviously, people in any career, not just wrestling, but F1 finds a way to, have their free time, wind down, whatever it may be. What is your method to wind down in your free time, essentially?
I mean, for me, because wrestling kind of is. It's kind of weird. Like wrestling is my release because I've got family, house, job, full time, job, things like that.
Yeah.
Wrestling is like the me time. Do you know what I
Okay.
mean? Like that's
Yeah.
the time where I get to hang out with friends. I get to go enjoy myself. I get to do something I really love doing. So that's kind of one of my biggest ones of like, what I kind of do. But aside from that, I mean, I just reading really is like my kind of relax is around reading. I'm trying to get through the Dark Tower series at the moment. I've been working on the Dark Tower for about 4 years now, I think. finally on the last book, but it's slow going. So, but yeah, no, like I say, because wrestling is a lovely removal from the strains and stresses of real life. Yeah, that's kind of the thing I always turn to.
Do you prefer ebooks or hardback?
I'm not very good at online reading. I've never really got into it. I've always preferred books. I like the feel of a book in my hand.
Yeah.
I like the feel of a page, and I mean, I'm sure I know lots of people said, "Oh, get a Kindle." They're great. They're just like a book. I'm sure they are. I've got no problem with that. But I just love the feel of a real book.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. Right, moving on. So I got a long notepad here. So, I was going to mention it. Where's it gone? Oh man, note of it. I didn't save. I'm going to edit this bit out. Okay, there it is. Yes. Yeah, I thought. Okay. So, 2008, the 6th of August, Travis bought a man called RJ Singh, who'd previously gone by a different name.
Yes. So yeah, I kind of started to have like there was a period around 2007. I can't remember when. I think it was around 2007. I just felt in a bit of a rut. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to change things up slightly. Because I just felt a bit stale and like I wasn't really getting anywhere further than I'd gotten.
Yeah.
And it was actually I sat down with Alex, and because Alex had been my trainer and mentor for so many years, I was like, I just went back to him and said, I really need to rethink things. Like, have you got any suggestions? And actually way back in like 2001, Alex had always pitched like this Bollywood character to me, and I kind of dismissed it, and I wasn't really interested in it at the time. I thought that sounded a bit silly, and And he cycled back round to it. He said, "Do you remember like?" He goes, "Do you remember like 6 years ago I said to you about doing like a Bollywood character?" And I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Well, given any thought to that?" So I just so happened to, me and my wife had been to see a musical called Bombay Dreams, which was an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. It didn't last very long, and so I that kind of gave me a bit of inspiration. So I kind of started to then change it to like, right, I'm going to repackage myself as like the Bombay Dream, Ross Jordan.
Yeah.
And so I did that for a bit, and then not unfortunately, it was a good thing. Obviously, Bombay was handed back over from Britain, so they renamed it. It was returned to the name Mumbai. So I was like, well, that's not going to work very well. It was actually Greg Lambert who then suggested Greg never really liked the Bombay Dream. He preferred the Bollywood Dream. So he then said, why don't we just change it to the Bollywood Dream, Ross Jordan?
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool. Let's do that. And then so I did that for a little bit, and I was like, it's not quite clicking because of the name as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think it was an LDN show. I then sort of debuted. I changed the name on an LDN show. I came out and re-announced myself as the Bollywood Dream RJ Singh, and that's when I changed the name then, and that's kind of where it became RJ Singh from that point onwards. And I was then the Bollywood Dream RJ Singh, and it just seemed to flow better. It had a better fit to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of easier to kind of go from there really, and kind of portray the character as a whole from that point on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's bad. Yeah, totally fair enough.
Yeah.
I was literally. I was going to ask like, what was the decision to change the ring name? But yeah, there you go. You answered that already. So yeah, one step ahead of the game.
That's it.
But no. So we go forward a little bit. To towards the final days of FWA, because that was your starting promotion. That was where you essentially started your career, and your training was mainly there anyway as well. So according to Cage Match, again, that's as I keep saying, the catchphrase of the show, but according to this, your final match was part of an expo. I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Might be, yeah. But I mean, that by the time we were doing expos, what year was that? Does it say what year?
It says it was, according to my notes, 2011.
Yeah,
it was you FWA, and Jodie Fleisch and someone else.
Yeah, because like FWA had closed around 2007.
Yeah.
And then was kind of dormant for 2 years or so, and it got reactivated in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2009, FWA was resurrected kind of slightly differently, a lot of newer talent, things like that. New management without Alex still like in the management, but someone else, backing it and things like that. And it was really funny actually, because they asked me to be on the first show, and they asked me to be in a four-way. But the first show was the weekend before my wedding. And I just said to Alex, I was like, I am not risking getting a black eye. Like I was like, I'm not risking it. So I just did a segment on the show instead, rather than a whole match, because I was just like, I'm not taking the chance. I was like, I'm really sorry, I'm not taking the chance.
Yeah.
So I did a segment instead on that first show, because I got married a week later. My wife would have killed me. But yeah, so, and then FWA ran for like 2 more years. I think 2 years or so, and then but again, it just kind of went the same path really. And it's we were doing a couple of expos, and the expos were great fun. They were really great fun, because those expos are kind of what became Comic Cons over here now. Because I don't think they're even called expos now. I think they're all just Comic Cons now, aren't they?
Yeah, pretty much.
And we'd never been to one of those. We'd never heard of it. But it was great because we were, and again, we'd done a couple of cool ones. Like we did some of those shows at like Thorpe Park. And we did them at the expos, and they were brilliant fun. Being around that kind of audience, which is a very different audience than we're used to, because they weren't strictly wrestling fans.
Yeah.
But they came to watch the wrestling, which was great. So they were really good fun. But then I think a couple of pictures came up on my Facebook memories actually yesterday or the day before of me and Johnny Storm in a four-way an expo. And actually, one of those last expos we did, Jeremy Borash was there.
Oh yeah.
And that's kind of when I first got to meet him.
Yeah.
And obviously I'd meet him again several years later. But that's kind of how he got to know me.
Yeah.
And he kind of hinted at the time though, and it never came to fruition, unfortunately. He said, "Oh, yeah, I really like your Bollywood gimmick, and because Jeremy was there, Alex, like we'd all I think we'd all done our matches for the day,
Mhm.
and Alex came running into the room and he was like, we need to put another match on. Like Jeremy wants to go out and announce a match, so we need to throw another match on. It was me and a guy called Max Angelus. We
Mhm.
kind of looked at each other and were like, we'll go out. And like, so we just threw a match together really quickly. And we're like, we'll go out and do, we'll go out and do a match. So,
Yeah.
so Borash announced us, which was really cool.
Mhm.
So he
Yeah.
announced our match and stuff like that. And then he spoke to me backstage. He's like, oh, I love the character. And he said, he said, keep in contact because, we're thinking all things Indian at the moment. And I was like, okay. And it nothing came to fruition for me for it. But what he was actually referring to was Ring Car King,
Yeah.
which he was involved with in India, which was kind of cool. So obviously that didn't pan out, but then I would hear from Borash several years later when it came to boot camp. So that was cool.
Yeah, and we're getting very close to that. But I want to quickly just rewind a little bit as well because there's obviously wrestling is multi-dimensional sort of profession. But for the most part, I think people tend to stick to their guns and don't really venture too far out of their comfort zone in regards to wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, insert Lucha Britannia. The the wacky everyone wears a mask, everyone changes their name sort of show. So yeah, you were there as the Bengal Tiger.
Yeah.
So spoiler alert for anyone who's not seen it, but
So and I was part of Lucha Britannia for quite a while actually,
Mhm.
as the Bengal Tiger, and not particularly subtle rip off of Tiger Mask. Wasn't subtle.
Sorry, professional.
I just had a black and orange color scheme. That's the only thing that was different. Apart from that, it was essentially Tiger Mask.
Yeah.
But it was great. No, Lucha Britannia was really good fun because it wasn't for wrestling fans. That was the great thing about Lucha Britannia. It wasn't for wrestling fans. It was
Yeah.
for people. It was for the cabaret scene. And there's quite a lot of wrestling goes on the cabaret scene now, but Lucha Britannia were kind of the first ones to do it.
Mhm.
And it wasn't a wrestling show. It was a cabaret show, which
Yeah.
just happened to have wrestling as one of its acts. And a
Yeah.
wrestling ring was the stage for the other cabaret acts as well. So, my first show for Lucha Britannia was actually a promotion for Doritos. So it was a
Oh.
corporate gig. It was a corporate gig for Doritos who were launching these flavor like collisions or something.
Mhm.
Of like it was mashing two flavors together, and so they did that through. They hired Lucha Britannia to kind of do this promotional event where a couple of the wrestlers dressed up in these like big mascot costumes. So like one of the wrestlers was like a bull because that was beef flavor.
Yeah.
One was a pepper. One was a giant pepper. One was a giant tomato. One was a chicken. And they had to have some matches in these ridiculous mascot type costumes, and then we intersped that with a few other matches of just like lucha style matches as well. So that was my first foray. But but including in that, I also did Download Festival before wrestling ever happened at Download Festival. Lucha Britannia did first. We did Reading and Leeds Festival as well. What's that really big? It's really shocking. Oh, Glastonbury.
Yeah.
We did Glastonbury. Well, I didn't do Glastonbury, but some of the others did.
Mhm.
Brit Awards. We did a Brit Awards after party gig as well with Lucha Britannia, and then we were Friday nights in London, third Friday of every month,
Mhm.
playing to a non-wrestling crowd who just loved it because they were there just to be entertained and see
Yeah.
cabaret acts. And so it was a brilliant time. The only downside to Lucha Britannia was the Resistance Gallery, as it was called, which was the venue,
Yeah.
was a railway arch, which was a perfect little venue for what it was and all that. But in the summer, it was horrendously hot in there, and I can't even. And so, wearing a mask and full get up
Yeah.
in the sweltering August heat was just horrendous. But yeah, brilliant time. Really,
Yeah.
really fun times.
So yeah, we're gonna get more into the modern day, I'd say, promotions that still run nowadays as well. Gonna avoid one because obvious reasons, but yeah. So you wrestled for I say what was known and still known as this now, Progress Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Back in 2012. So during like very early doors for them as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was on their well, I was supposed to be on their debut show, but personal circumstances kept me out of it, which was really unfortunate. I was able to then be part of their second show, and I was I was a big, I was part of their roster in the early run.
Yeah.
It was gutting not being able to do the first show because they in that very first show they had booked one import, which was Colt Cabana, and it was me they were going to put on with Colt Cabana. So
Yeah.
and I'd actually wrestled Colt Cabana once before. Prior to that, we'd wrestled once in some random show in Scunthorpe. So yeah, I was really looking forward to that, and unfortunately, I couldn't do it. But
yeah,
we then then came in had quite a good run with Progress for for its early days. I think I was in most chapters up to chapter 14, and then obviously I had my last match of Salts. I kind of retired around in chapter 16. Was kind of my retirement match, but yeah, a really great run with Progress. Really, and it was, you could feel it was the start of something new and exciting. Because again, they came in. We went through a down period, from sort of 2000. We had this period of boom period from like 2002, 2005, 6, and then we had with FWA, and then we had this real down period where like houses were down, shows weren't drawing as much from like 2008 to 2011, and then kind of around 2011 things started to pick up again, and Progress was part of that boom. Of things restarting and kickstarting again. And obviously Progress was a very exciting promotion to be part of. Both as a wrestler, and then obviously I kind of retired for a year or two from in-ring stuff, and I came back as a commentator for quite a while. I was on commentary for a long time and did a lot of commentary. Can't remember what chapter I stopped, but yeah, it was really exciting. Again on commentary, it was great to see some of the matches. Like I got to witness some of the talent who are now in NXT and who are in WWE now and things like that. It was great to kind of watch the early days of a lot of these guys' careers and be able to commentate on those. And yeah, I mean, I had a great time in those early days. Of Progress. Yeah.
And as you mentioned with the chapter 16 Progress being the retirement for you, you fought Styx.
Yes.
In a career match, but what I want to pay attention to is the name of the chapter. At the time, Progress were very wacky and weird, and with their titles. So this one was called.
To be honest, I didn't get half of the titles. Like, about half of them I understood the references, and many I didn't even get the I didn't get the references to a lot of their show titles.
Yeah, I'm the same way, to be honest. But chapter 16 was called a very, very, very breaky, bishy, bishy.
Yes. Amazing. Which was taken from a Japanese commentator, wasn't it? I can't remember what promotion. It might have been DDT. The DDT
might have been. I don't remember myself personally.
Put from a table, and that was what the commentator said. Like he screamed this line.
But yeah, no, you were talking for Progress, and you also went into Rev Pro, which is the other big British wrestling company. As well.
I wrestled them on I wrestled for them when they were IPW, and then obviously there was the split between the owners of IPW, and then Rev Pro kind of came with his own thing as well. So, and when I returned from when I came back from retirement around 2016 or so, I did a bit of a run with Rev Pro at the Cockpit, for about a year or so, and one of the first matches I had back was against Zack Sabre Jr., which was a great experience as well. So yeah, I mean, I always enjoyed working for Rev Pro. Always very professional, and again had some great talents in there, and still do. Rev Pro still doing some amazing shows as we speak.
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, you wrestled for those two. You also wrestled some legends, not only with the British scene, but also the American scene. In 2014, 10th of August, for SWE, you'd wrestled Tatanka, Native American.
One of my favourite matches of the entire time I've wrestled was that match against Tatanka, because I think a lot of the guys a lot of the guys were, because they, the guys a lot of guys come up were very into American indie wrestling. So when they got matches against American independent wrestlers, they were like, "Oh, I love it. This is great." But for me, because I'd grown up watching WWF in like late 80s, early 90s, to me, I was like, "Wow, these are the people I get meeting these." And so getting to wrestle Tatanka, who's someone I'd grown up watching, was just incredible. And he was really awesome. He was really up for anything. He was like, he came ready to work. You hear a lot of stories about guys who are like, older generations guys don't really want to work with younger guys and things like that. And I found it was completely opposite. Tatanka really wanted to work. He really wanted to have a really good match. So yeah, he was totally just up for anything I wanted to do. But the guy has like hands like that. It's massive. And of course, one of his main moves is the chop. And because he had these big bare paw hands, like every time he chopped me, like I felt every single one of those chops.
Yeah.
It was but incredible, really, just so much fun working him. So and he was so complimentary afterwards as well. He came backstage and he was so complimentary of working with me. So yeah, absolutely up there in one of my top 5 matches, I think, of all time.
Yeah, fair enough. Just disclaimer. I've not had a chance to watch Boot Camp. It's something that I want to do at some point, but I haven't had time to do it. So I'm not really familiar with it. So I still need you to sort of run me through it if you can.
Yeah, so they did a British Boot Camp, in 2011, I think it was. 2011, 2012, they ran the first boot camp, which was just with 4 wrestlers, which of course Spud won. And that led to his signing with TNA. And I had always said to Alex, like, oh, if they do a season 2, I really want to be involved with that. And, he was like, keep an eye out. And then lo and behold, like, I think tail end of 2013, I got an email from Spud saying, are you available for a chat? And I was like, yeah. And he was in and out of America at that point. So we had a video chat, and he suddenly sat there with Jeremy Borash, and I was like, oh, hello again, nice to meet you again. So and they pitched boot camp to me. They wanted me to be part of it. They said, this is what we're going for, etc., etc. There's an audition process. So you'll be filmed on camera doing an audition. Then there's a session. If you pass the audition, you have like a training session with Samoa Joe, Al Snow, and Gail Kim. And then if you pass that, you go to the London finals. So I filmed all my stuff over 2 days. So on the Friday, and they'd already filmed in the 3 other places. So like, I can't remember the 2 or 3 other places. One was in Scotland, I think. One was up north.
Yeah.
So it kind of got round to us in London. And yeah, I filmed my audition piece on the Friday morning. They said, yeah, it's great. We want to move you through, so stick around. So then I did the training session part, which we filmed on Friday afternoon. And then they told us that evening, said, yeah, great, right, you're all coming through to the London finals tomorrow. So you're going to come back tomorrow on Saturday and you're going to be in a match, which we're going to tape for like episode 4. So I was in a tag match, me and a guy called Richard Parliament. We wrestled Joel Redman and Martin Stone in a tag match. And Martin Stone and Joel had recently been released from NXT.
Yeah.
That original version of NXT. We had, and it was great. It was such a great experience because it was the first time kind of for me like working like a TV show. And watching a wrestling director, talk backstage about camera shots and things like that, and it was really fantastic. And and they said to us, if you want family to come, so I managed to get quite a lot of friends and family to come. Again, it was in York Hall, which it was the last time I wrestled in York Hall. Which is always great, and it was just so brilliant, and it was and we were well paid. I was, and at the end of it, and Al Snow and Samoa Joe and Gail Kim were really cool and gave us lots of really good feedback, very useful feedback about things. And at the end of it, I'm walking away. I'm saying goodbye to everyone at the end of the night, end of Saturday night. I didn't go through to the next stage, which was then off to America or whatever it was. I think it was the next stage was then those people who went off to America for the next part. And I was speaking to Gail Kim on the way out, and she was like, "You seem so cheerful for someone who's just been kind of kicked off the show."
Yeah.
And I was like, I said to her, well, I got to do something I've not done before. I got to do it with a lot of my wrestling peers who I really get on with, and you've just paid me for it. So, like, why wouldn't I be happy about it? I was like, I was very thankful for the experience, and yeah, it was like, like I said, it was a really great experience
Yeah.
from there. It was, again, just something I really treasure looking back, the chance to take part in it. But it is funny though, because when you look at the lineup of British Boot Camp, and you look at a lot of those people then went on to NXT UK or
Yeah.
NXT and so
Precisely.
forth.
Yeah.
It was
So,
really,
like,
when you
yeah, but looking at this now, like you've got likes of like Viper, who is Piper Niven. You've
absolutely,
got Nikki Storm, who's now Nikki Cross.
yeah,
Kaylee Ray, who's now Alba
Alpha
Fire.
Fire, yeah,
Yeah, like you've
Nolan
got
Dollar was in there.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and not to mention the others who've also gone on to do other things, not necessarily WWE, but
Yeah,
like Lana Austin were part of it, who's big now
yes,
on the UK
yeah,
scene. For someone like Rampage Brown as well.
yeah, definitely, yeah. That's
So,
it. It's amazing, isn't it, when you look at the caliber of people who are on there as well? So, yeah, it's
mhm.
great.
So yeah, that was that was the British boot camp, which was definitely an experience if you watched it, and
Yes,
never mind if you took part in it itself as well. Like, but so just for the sake of time, we'll just skip forward a little bit further to more modern day. So again, you had more runs in progress. You also had some stuff with Rev Pro. Um, you also oh, sorry, pardon me. You competed for FW, which I didn't mention earlier, but you debuted then for that company, sorry, in 2005. But you're still wrestling there nowadays. Not to mention as well that you wrestled for Elevation. You wrestled for who haven't you wrestled for really?
yeah. Most people, I think, I've wrestled for at some point, at least one show.
Yeah. But no, we have Purpose Wrestling that we mentioned before as well. I'm at San Francisco. It's a small company based in Wimbledon. It's an amazing little show in a library. It's phenomenal.
Very unique. Very unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I actually want to bring a bit of attention to your current team, I should say, within Purpose and within other London places. The East City Sovereigns with Jordan Saeed.
Yeah.
How did that come about? That formation of that team.
Yeah, we were actually put together in a promotion which is now defunct called Battle Pro, which operated out of South London.
Yeah.
And they kind of threw us together, and so like we did a match where like I had a singles match I think against Danny Black, and at the end of it Jordan kind of runs out and is like, there's like a mystery guy who's joining me because the promoter wanted to give Jordan a chance. Jordan had just started getting on shows and he wanted to give him a bit of a chance, and he obviously wanted to tag him up with someone more experienced. We then did one tag match together, and then maybe another match where a singles match where he supported me, and then the pandemic hit. And then during the pandemic, when David Francisco kind of messaged me and said, "Oh, I'm starting up a promotion in Wimbledon, taking over from another promotion that ran that venue, and I really want to use you and Jordan as a tag team." And I was like, oh, "Okay, yeah, no problem at all." So, we me and Jordan got in contact and we're like, "Yeah, David, I'm happy. If you want to carry on doing this, it'll be really good fun." So, I think the first Purpose show, which was my first match back from the pandemic.
Yeah.
It was me and Jordan. No, it was me in a singles match with Jordan was with me. So we did that, and then we've been running as a tag team ever since, as kind of the top heel tag team, I'll say, in Purpose Wrestling, which is always great. It's always great working with Jordan. It's so much fun, and and then Jordan helped get me booked in Italy like 2 years ago as well. So like we flew out to Italy together and did a show together. And it's just a great experience. And then like everything patterned, Roy Johnson's everything patterned. We've been used as a team on two of those now as well. So it's just always a fun time working with Jordan. Like he's really come on as a performer in the last couple of years. So coming back from the pandemic, he's really just come into his own as a performer.
Yeah.
So it's been an absolute pleasure working with him.
Yeah, fair enough. So to sort of bring a bit of a downer, I suppose, but it's something I always ask. Obviously, as you mentioned already, the pandemic of 2020 happened, and it affected everyone in different ways, whether it's regarding their work or regarding their personal life, whatever. But like in regards to wrestling, how if you're able to wear those, how was you affected by it, if at all?
I mean, obviously it stopped me wrestling for the best part of 2 years or so, which wasn't entirely a bad thing. I think it gave me a bit of time to heal up and not take so many bumps for a little while. I did miss it. Obviously, I missed wrestling, but I knew it was necessary. I did get asked. I can't remember if it was the winter of 2021 or 2020 when Progress started returning and doing those recorded pandemic shows. They did ask me to come on board on commentary again. But I didn't feel it was right, given my role of my day job. I didn't think it was right to be, preaching a message of keep your distance
Yeah.
to the communities that I work with, but then going and doing a TV taping. I thought that kind of it didn't sit right that I'd be giving that kind of message, so I declined their offer. But I was really nervous about coming back to wrestling, like just in terms of like getting back in the ring again. So like me and my very good buddy Sunset Skip.
Mm-hmm.
I think in 2021, we from like April until I had that first match in August, every 2 weeks, me and Skip were like back in training together. We went to our local training school, which is UBW.
Yeah,
I've got their Square One Academy, and we just met up and we were just training together because we wanted to get back into ring shape and get back ready again before that. I didn't want to turn up and just do a first show and be injured because I was out of ring shape. So yeah, I spent a lot of time, quite a few months training, being ready to be on shows again before that actual first show back at Purpose.
yeah, that's absolutely fair enough. And also in terms of like modern day stuff as well, you're wrestling for a company called Pro Wrestling East,
Yes,
based
your
based in
inaugural
Cambridge. Yeah.
men's champion. Yeah, your
Yes.
inaugural men's champion, which was a really big deal for me because again, East brought me on board. Tail end of 21, they got in contact and said, "Look, we did one show and pandemic hit, and now we're trying to start our shows again. We're doing a tournament, but we're doing tournament for the men's championship. Do you want to? We'd really love you to be part of it, and be part of that tournament." Pretty sure it wasn't even supposed to be me as the guy, but circumstances changed their end, and things happened, and they said, and so I was the inaugural champion, which was amazing because it's fairly local to me, where I live, so it's not too far from me. But I had family there, so like my wife came, my daughter came, and my daughter's seen me wrestle about 3 times now. But she was there on that show. She came to watch me, so it was a really big moment. And it was me and Charlie Morgan won the women's title that same night as well.
Yeah.
And it was a really, really, really special night. It was the end of 2022, their November show, and it was brilliant. And the belt is amazing. Unfortunately, I don't have the belt in front of me. It's in my upstairs at the moment. It is a beautiful belt made by Paul Martin Belts.
Yeah, it really is.
Really gorgeous title. So hugely honoured. So in just over a week's time, I got my second defence against Charles Samuels. So that's looking forward to.
Nice.
Looking forward to that. It's going to be a really good show. So
yeah,
it's called the Money Pit, and they've got like 1 million wrestlers on the show.
I've seen the whole like, tag gauntlet sort of thing.
They're building their tag division and their tag tournament now. So
exactly.
Very exciting. So we're looking forward. I'm looking forward to that show. Again, me and Shah have been in the ring lots of times over the last 20 years. Me and Shah have been in the ring many times, so it'll be good to get back in the ring with him again.
Yeah. And one of the final matches I want to bring mention to is something that you've already mentioned as well, actually. Was Roy Johnson's Everything Patterned show. That happened, what was it, April this year?
Yes, It was most recent. That was number 4. I think it was show number, Everything Patterned number 4 happened,
That sounds right, yeah. But yourself and Jordan took on the 8-7, which was Roy himself and Alexander Roth.
Yeah.
Like I was there in attendance for that match. That was incredibly incredible. I keep saying that, incredible. Sorry, but I was just wondering, like, how did that come about? Was that sort of thing where Roy was just like, "Hey, can we face you?" Or was it sort of like Did you
Yeah, I
ask
mean,
for it or?
no. I mean, Roy is obviously he is everything pattern basically. You know, it's
Mhm.
all down to him. He just seeks out promotions who want to support him.
Mhm.
So the first one he did was obviously with Wrestling Resurgence. The second one was with Progress, and the last two have been part of something called Restival.
Yeah.
So which is spearheaded by a wrestler called Heather Brandenburg, who's a performance artist as well.
Yeah.
And she spearheads Restival, and Everything Pattern has been part of that, which is a weekend of different wrestling. And so yeah, and Roy got in contact with me, and Jordan said, like, we really want you to be on show number 4, because I was on the first 2. I didn't do number 3, but I was on. He wanted us back for number 4, and he said, "Yeah, we want a tag match. We really want these City Sovereigns, and yeah, we can do it versus the 87." So yeah, we jumped at the chance, and obviously we jumped at the chance
Yeah,
to do it.
absolutely.
So having previously, because we wrestled that version of the 87 in the Progress Everything Patterned as part of a multi-tag match, also featuring Darius Lockhart and Shug
Dunkerton.
Dunkerton as well.
Yeah.
And then me and Jordan had also wrestled the Roy and Warren version of the 87 in Purpose as well. So it was it was really good. Yeah, really good fun. So that, and again, I think those shows are really important. I said that. I mean, I said I've been dying to get hold of the mic in Everything Pattern and say how I truly feel about it, because I think it's really important. I don't think you can understand. And representation is so important now. And I still think, and I could show you on my phone 11 posters over the last 3 months which are completely lacking in any kind of diversity whatsoever. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
The fact that still happens in 2023 is shocking, really.
It's insane.
Is shocking. So I think something like Everything Pattern is a really important showcase for young, BAME talent to kind of have a spotlight. And I will thank Roy Endersley for that. I think it's such an important thing that should be celebrated. And yeah, long may it continue, I hope.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Fair enough. So actually, yeah. So I've got to bring out when you mentioned it. You mentioned that you had a chance to wrestle in Italy. How was that experience compared to the UK? I guess.
Yeah, it was really fun. Getting to fly out there. I've done it twice now. I've been out twice for IWA in Italy. And it's really interesting, I think, working with especially when there was the first show I did was in a triple threat, and one of the guys had not a language barrier, but didn't speak a lot of English.
Yeah.
But I think the beauty of wrestling is there's a lot that's so non-verbal that it's not as difficult as you might think it would be, because you can do so much of it non-verbally. But it was really great, and I would say the roster was a fairly inexperienced one, and they just welcomed me with open arms. They were so welcoming and so, pleased, it seemed, for me to be there. And and they were all just and the crowd were great, because Italy didn't have a lot of wrestling going on for many years on the back of it was actually a really interesting fact I didn't even know, on the back of the whole Chris Benoit incident. Italy pulled WWE TV programming for years.
Oh wow!
So on the back of that, I was told this when I got over there. They pulled all WWF off their TV. There was no wrestling happening on in Italian TV for years and years and years and years. So it's back in there now.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that, actually. Yeah, because I didn't think about it until just now. But like, I've got a mate who's Italian, and he mentioned he's a huge wrestling fan, but he had to like really seek out like wrestling in Italy, and I thought, like, that's so, like, did not show it on TV, or like did not anywhere watching it normally?
So it's amazing, isn't it? So the crowds out there are really hungry for wrestling, so they've also really brilliant. So yeah, great experience. It's very funny though, because both times it's literally I've flown in, got to the venue, done the show, got back to a hotel, had a few hours sleep, and it's back up again, straight back onto a plane back over to England again. So, didn't really get to take in any of the culture or anything like that. It's literally just fly in, do the job, and fly out again. So
fair enough. But that brings an end to the career portion, kind of. we have one question from our social media, which is a whole list in itself. But um, so WWE Master 2018. I want to watch their final. They wanted to know if you had any specific memories in wrestling certain wrestlers.
Okay.
Now, some which we've covered, some which we haven't. So and some on the list that we won't cover just for reasons. But so we start off with Johnny Kidd.
Oh, amazing! Like you don't wrestle Johnny Kidd. Johnny Kidd wrestles for both of you. he's that good. That's how good Johnny Kidd is. He just is amazing to be in the ring with. Obviously he's got such a plethora of experience, and I didn't even feel like I was wrestling. I felt like he was just doing it for the both of us and still being amazing at the same time. Yeah, absolutely pleasure to have had the experience of working with him.
So up next we have Hayde Vanson. So obviously we covered that, but is there anything
Yeah.
further past debuts?
Yeah, no, I mean we still message each other like to this day. Actually, Hayde's gone into other things as well. Like he's been an actor, photographer, martial arts instructor, MMA fighter, everything you name it. Hayde has done it. So it was great. It was great. Like I said, we wrestled each other a couple of times over the years, and it was I always thought he was very talented. Talented guy. It's a shame he never kind of really made it to the main roster of WF because I think he had a lot to contribute. So
yeah, I mean that promo alone.
Yeah.
That. So we have up next on this list is Martin Stone.
Martin Stone again, just always really good fun working Martin. Always really good fun.
Yeah,
he liked a DDT as well. He appreciated a good DDT, did Martin. So
to be fair, it's one of the better moves in wrestling.
Best move in wrestling. Best move in
wrestling. Yeah. Up next on this we have Pac, which I'm believing is English Pac.
Yeah, he blew me away. Like Adrian Neville, someone will call him. He just blew me away with what that guy could do. Because the muscle on him, and he was so light-footed for a guy who's quite heavily built, but so light-footed and so agile. And again, I've wrestled him a couple of times. Incredible wrestler. He's not I don't know what's how he's not on TV at the moment, is he? I don't think currently he's on TV.
No, he's not. No, it's just Penta and Phoenix, isn't it? Nowadays.
Yeah. And but I saw him again. I think was it pre-pandemic or post-pandemic? Might have been pre-pandemic. He did a 4FW show, and it was the first time I'd seen him in like 10 years, and at this point he'd been to WWE. He was just starting to go into AEW, and I was like, will he even remember me? I walked in the room, he was like, Ross, and he's like, oh, how are you? And and we spent ages chatting. So it was amazing talent, really was.
So we have next Spud.
Twat. No.
Moving on,
love him to bits. Absolutely love him to bits. So
yeah. So unless we have Shah Samuels.
Yeah, great, always fun wrestling. Shah, looking forward to it. I'll match up in 2 weeks.
Yeah, fair enough. Up next we have Paul Robinson.
Paul Robinson, yeah, really. We wrestled each other loads because he was also at Lucha Britannia as well. He portrayed a character called Leon Britannico.
Yes.
So he was kind of one of those guys. It was always effortless with Paul because we just knew each other. I felt like we got to the point where we just knew each other's stuff, and so we didn't really have to talk very much.
Yeah.
It was always again, another guy who could do everything but didn't have to, and rarely did as much as he could do. At one point, I think he was probably the best high flyer on the scene at one point, but then changed his style completely, so he didn't have to do it anymore. So, but yeah, we always had really. I've always felt like chemistry wise, we always had really good chemistry in the ring.
Yeah. Up next, we have Tommy End, or Malachi Black is known now.
Malachi, Alistair, Tommy End. Yeah, I only really got to wrestle him once in a tag match, but I talked to him a lot backstage at Progress shows, and so I got to know him quite well. And spent a lot of time and a couple of car journeys with him. So I really got on well with Tommy. So, but that spin kick is still a thing of beauty. It is an absolute thing of beauty. And I felt the wrath. I have felt the wrath of the Black Mass. It is, it's an incredible kick. So
Yeah.
really,
Yeah,
really
it's
awesome.
it looks incredible. Like seeing it in person and seeing it on TV. It's one of the most beautiful moves I think I've seen in wrestling.
I mean, it's like my head has disappeared. He got me good with it. Yeah.
On the list next is wait, Will Ospreay.
Yeah, it's really funny because I didn't actually work. I've never wrestled him as Will Ospreay. We've only wrestled each other under our Lucha Britannia monikers, as it were. But again, very similar to Pac, kind of breathtaking the stuff he's capable of doing. Really is. I think I'm in a way I would have liked to have worked him as like RJ Singh and Will Ospreay because that never happened. But the Britannia matches we had as Dark Britannico and Bengal Tiger were super fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be an advocate for seeing that somewhere like today. RJ Singh with Ospreay, like he's doing so much anyway on the BritWres scene. So
Progress 1PW, hit me up. You know where I am.
So up next we have again someone that we mentioned, but Tatanka.
Oh, just brilliant. I mean, best, like I said, top 5, easily top 5. Yeah.
Up next we have Styx.
Just the best. Like one of those, again, Styx is kind of in my list of people I've worked the most. And again, it was effortless because Styx was another guy he's probably the most passionate person I've ever met about wrestling. Someone who had a real passion for wrestling and watched wrestling and studied wrestling. Which is why he runs, a really successful training school up in Nottingham now.
Yeah.
House of Pain.
Yeah.
That's it. And again, it was always a real, it was effortless working with Styx because it was just so easy. We knew each other so well. We knew each other's stuff really well. And when it came to my retirement match, he was the only real choice, to be honest. When Progress said, "Who do you want to have the match against?" I was like, "It has to be Styx." So.
Yeah, fair enough. Up next here we have 3 left. It's Grado.
Oh, Grado! I really enjoyed that match. It was an NGW match, and we met each other a couple of times through boot camp. It was kind of how we first met, and we met each other a couple of times, and then they brought him to NGW because that was in that period where Grado was like super hot as a wrestler, really like top of the scene. And he said it was just funny because he was like, what do you want to do? Do we have to do a lot of indie stuff? And I was like, mate, let's just do the Grado match. And he's like, really? I was like, yeah. I said, just tell me the Grado match, and we'll do the Grado match. That's all they want to see. I said, trust me, that's all this crowd will want to see is the Grado doing Grado stuff, and we did it, and it was great fun.
We have here next on the list is Zack Sabre Jr.
It's so hard to keep up with Zack Sabre Jr. Like, again, I wrestled him a few times before he went to Japan. And then I wrestled him when he had come back from Japan, and it was like a different animal. And it's so hard to keep up with. If you're wrestling Zack Sabre Jr., you've got to be absolutely top of your game to keep up with him. He's just insanely good.
Yeah, like if you're watching this and you haven't seen it, I'd recommend Sabre Jr. and Michael Oko for Rumble. That's an insane match.
I bet that was really good.
And finally on this we have Greg Burridge.
Oh my gosh, me and Greg, I try to remember the last time we wrestled. Again, it was probably Lucha Britannia. But me and Greg go back years and years. But actually, I know that it was either Lucha Britannia or we kind of had we did a title match in Future Pro Wrestling. Actually, it was the last match I had in Future Pro before I took that retirement. And it was against Greg, and that was it meant a lot to both of us because me and Greg had kind of known each other from the start of our careers.
Yeah.
And we worked together a lot at Lucha Britannia and things like that. So it was wrestling an old friend is always good. Always good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so thank you, WWE Master 2018, for that list of questions.
He must have got that list from Cage Match. He must have gone on Cage Match and gone through and.
I mean, he must. Like, I don't know how else all these come from, unless he's been to like.
Unless he's seen all those matches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is insane, really, if that is the case. But so we have 2 more questions to go through. one I wanted to ask, outside of your bias, I guess, for the move, why did you choose the DDT for your finisher, or is it just a preference thing?
I mean, it was as a kid when I was, well, if I say as a kid, yeah, as a kid I loved it. I loved the move as a kid. I was a massive fan of Jake Roberts. Like I thought, he always made it look devastating.
Mm-hmm.
And where I just kind of got to a point where I made a joke the other day. Actually, I put this on Twitter. Like, someone, it was about. I don't know if you've seen this thing on Twitter in the last couple of days. Everyone's like, "Oh, look, people told the Miz he can't wrestle, and
Yeah,
now he's doing really cool moves." And that there's been a video online of the last couple of days of like Miz versus who was he against Ricochet,
Ricochet. Yeah.
and Miz is busting out some pretty impressive moves. And
Mm-hmm.
and I think the Miz is incredible. By the way, I think he's one of the most talented WWF wrestlers because he gets what he is and he does it incredible.
Yeah.
And he's a millionaire, and he's married to Maurice, so he's done something right. And anyone who says the Miz can't wrestle doesn't understand wrestling. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, but he did bust out some incredible. I think just to show everyone that like Miz is like, yeah, of course I can do all this stuff. I just don't need to do it.
Yeah.
I said I retweeted it with a bit of a joke saying, "Oh yeah, this is me from like 2016 to 2019, thinking I had to keep up with all the younger wrestlers." Because I thought I did. Like, I had to do all these really same moves, and then I just coming back, I was like, I just want a really effective, simple move, and so I went back and I watched like Jake the Snake, Arn Anderson, Raven, all doing their versions of the DDT, and it just took me back to like when I was a kid, and I thought that is such an incredible move, and it's the original out of nowhere move,
Yeah.
where the RKO has become the move out of nowhere. I was like, well, if you watch, Jake Roberts was the originator, like hitting it out of nowhere and hitting it out of places you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
And it's kind of become a gimmick for me now though. Like the move itself has become my gimmick. As I've evolved from like the Little Dragon Ross Jordan through to the Bombay Dream, the Bollywood Dream, the King, and now it's kind of evolved into the guy who does the DDT, and
Yeah.
which I love. I think it's great. It's a move that can be done on anybody. You can do it on anybody. And I'm very protective of it as part of my thing. I'm just super protective of it.
Yeah.
To the point where everyone knows I'm the DDT guy now. So and that's fine. I'm happy with that. I'm happy to be the DDT guy. So it's a brilliant move. It's a great move.
But are you a regular watcher of DDT?
No, I haven't watched any. So I probably should. I should probably start watching a bit of DDT. So
so the question that we normally end these with, it's a bit of a two-pronged sort of question. But who would be your current and all-time dream wrestler to face? So current being in the sense of like currently on the scene, like who's currently at the table that you absolutely want to face that you probably haven't faced.
yeah.
And all time can be in their prime, passed away. Like,
who do I want to face currently? Dean Allmark. I've known me and Dean have been on many shows, but me and Dean Allmark have never worked each other.
mm-hmm.
So I mean, definitely would love to work with Dean. He's incredible.
Yeah.
And I think he is now on a point where he's going to start winding down soon,
Yeah.
which I think is a massive loss. I think it's a huge loss.
Yeah.
To the wrestling scene. If Dean is leaving the wrestling scene. But I'd definitely love to work him because I think he's incredible. And I think all time, if I could wrestle sort of anyone from any time, would probably be Arn Anderson, just because I think he was an incredible worker, really incredible worker. Got a tremendous body of work. So definitely.
DDT versus Spinebuster. Why not?
Absolutely.
Right. So that brings an end to this UK Indy Spotlight wrestler interview, whatever you want to call it. It's that. So we always ask, have you got any merch store, online stores, sort of thing to plug? Or...
I don't at the moment. But I've got some new merch coming out. So if people keep an eye on my Twitter or my Instagram, they will see some new merch bits popping up.
Enough. And that brings an end. Yeah. All of your social media, well, the ones that you want anyway, will be in the description. And all our stuff's above here. And the Twitter handles are also underneath our lovely little frames here that you can see.
Excellent.
yeah, that brings an end to this one. I've been Dan, DP, the Breezy, and this has been RJ Singh.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming on. See you guys. Peace.